Hey everyone, this is Teresa from Base 10 Montessori, and today I want to show you the stamp game. Now the stamp game is a Montessori material we use after the child has gone through the golden bead system, which is also known as the decimal system. So by the time the child is working with the stamp game, they've already had a lesson on units, tens, hundreds, thousands, and they've also had lessons on all the operations: addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division, both static and dynamic. That happens about when the child is 4 years old. It's usually their second year in the primary classroom. And by the time they get to the stamp game, they're around 5 years old, probably closer to 5.5 years old. And then this comes after the golden bead system. So they've already understood the different symbols, 1, 10, 100, 1,000, but they also understand the quantity as well as working with the operations. So when I get to the stamp game, I'm going to start by showing them the stamps, and I might say to them, what does that say? And since they've worked with the decimal system, they'll say 1. What about that? What does that say? 10. And I'll ask them, how many zeros does 10 have? 1 0. Same thing for 100. What does this say? 100. How many zeros does it have? 2. And what does this say? 1,000. How many zeros does it have? 1, 2, 3. 3 zeros. The reason why we do this is because this is part of the decimal system in the AMI album, and we do really want the child to understand the placement of the zero and how that affects each category in the decimal system. So it's good to go through those reminders and just help the child remember how many zeros are in each category. So the next thing I might do is give the child a 3-period lesson just to make sure they've solidified what category each one is. And I might say, move the unit over here. Move 100 right here. Pick up the 10. Put the 10 right here. Move 1,000 over to this side. And so we'll play that 3-period lesson game where I just have the child manipulate it as I ask them to do different things with the different parts, different numbers, just to make sure they really do understand what a unit is: 10, 100, and 1,000. After that, once the child really understands how to do or knows how to identify each stamp, what I'm going to do next is simply show them how to build numbers. And I'm going to start very slowly. So if your child is using this outside of a Montessori classroom, just start with one category at a time and ask them to build you 5 units or 5 ones if you prefer to use the word ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So once the child can do that, they can build one category. I always have a ruler on hand because I really like to straighten it out. Children usually love this in the 0 to 6 environment because they enjoy the sense of order. Order is one of the sensitive periods for the 0 to 6 age group. So always have a ruler nearby for the stamp game. I think it really helps. So you can ask them to build numbers in one category at a time. So we've built 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. And then you can also start doing 2 categories. So if the child can easily build numbers in each category, you can go ahead and start combining categories, such as, can you build 1,300? Okay, let's build 1,300. 1, 2, 3. So 1,300. Let's straighten that out with our ruler. And once the child is working easily with 2 categories, let's go ahead and put on a 3rd category. Doesn't matter which ones you do, just limit it to 3 categories. So for instance, you might ask the child to build you 321. Can you build me 321? 100, 200, 300, 20. 20 is 2 tens, 1 10. 2 tens, and 1 unit. Again, if they're a little crooked, just come along, straighten it out. Make sure they're all there. And also, we want to line it up with the categories. This is kind of like our control of error up here as to where the stamps go. So keep in mind the layout of where you're going to ask the child to lay out the numbers. So once we start working comfortably with 3 categories, go ahead and work with all 4 categories, such as, can you build me 1,321? And if the child is building numbers comfortably with all 4 categories, it's time to start adding in the paper. Now, when the child has worked with the golden bead system, we've already given the definition for what each operation is. So for instance, when I do addition with the golden bead system, I've already given the definition in the golden beads by saying addition is when we have a smaller number and we join together another smaller number to create a bigger number. So when we start getting towards addition with the stamp game, we're going to remind the child what the definition of addition is. And every single operation that we introduce with the stamp game, we want to go back, do what's familiar, and make sure the child understands what the definition is for each category, because sometimes they forget, right? So let's start introducing the paper. Put that away, and I'm going to write a number. What does that number say? 2,431. So that's the number I'm going to have the child build. So let's go through this. I'll keep this right here so you can see it as I go through it. How many units do we have? We have 1 unit. Okay, how many tens are there? 3 tens, 1 10, 2 tens, 3 tens. And what do we call 3 tens? 30. It's always good to remind the child the language of the tens. So how many hundreds do we have? We have 400. So let's count. 1. Make sure that your numbers are facing the proper way. 1, 2, 3, 4. 400, how many thousands do we have? 1,000, 2,000. All right, so we've built our first number. We can take our ruler, straighten out if we want to, right? Now, when we're working with the stamp game and the child is starting to comfortably work with you writing a number and then building it, we can start getting into addition. In the stamp game, there's something special that happens in the stamp game that we did not do with the golden beads, and that is we're going to give the language for the operation. So the child already knows the definition, what is addition. Now we're going to put down the parts of addition. So I might say to the child, see this first number right here? That's our first addend, this top number. It's called an addend. Now I'm going to build the second number. I'm going to write down the second number. Say 1,224. And the second number, that's called our second addend. So we have our addend and our addend. These are our 2 smaller numbers we're going to join together. And what's that called when we have 2 smaller numbers that we join together to make a bigger number? It's called addition. And the sign for addition is right here. And when we give the answer, that's called our sum. So let's build our second number. And this is also where we're going to start using this ruler to help differentiate between our first addend and our second addend. So our second addend right here, we're going to build 4 units. 1, 2, 3, 4. And we're going to build 2 tens. 1 10, 2 tens. What is 2 tens called? 20. We're also going to build 200. 1, 2. And how many thousands? It's just 1,000. Now what is addition? Taking our 2 smaller numbers and joining them together to make a bigger number. So let's take out this ruler here. And this is the really fun part of joining them together, because this is addition. We got to join them together. at that. We joined our first addend with our second addend. Let's count our answers and see what it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 units. We're going to write 5 units right here, 5. Let's count our tens. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tens. 5 tens is 50. Let's count 100. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6. And how many thousands? 1, 2, 3. So our answer, that's called our sum, is 3,655. Now, if your child is practicing static addition and that gets too easy, we have to switch to dynamic addition. Your child, if they've been following along with the golden beads through a Montessori classroom, should have already been introduced to the dynamic addition principle with the golden beads. However, if not, if you're doing this at home and you're getting this and you've skipped the golden bead system, we have to, when we approach dynamic addition, we really want to make sure and solidify that idea of exchanging. So let me show you what that looks like with the stamp game. I'm going to use our sum as our first addend, just to make it a little easier. So let's do 3,655 for our second problem. So that's now going to become our first addend. Just picking that number so I don't have to put the stamps back out again. So it's simply for my sake. So I'm going to tilt that down just a little bit, make sure we have enough room to see. Now I'm going to write a second number. I'm going to tell the child now, wait for me when you join them together before you write your answer. Wait for me because something different is going to happen this time. So now I'm going to ask the child to put the ruler there, separate their addends, and let's build 1,216. So let's build 6 units. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Just this down just a touch so you can see what's going on. Okay, 6. Now, how many tens? 1 10. How many hundreds? 200. And how many thousands? 1,000. Okay. So we have our first addend, we have our second addend. Now, in addition, we have to join them together. That part stays the same. Let's join them together. All right, so we've joined together our numbers. Now, something different is going to happen this time. And if the child's worked with the golden beads, you can give them a reminder. Say, when we get to 10, something special happens. Can you remember what that is? Say, we exchange for the next one higher. Okay, so when we get to 10, we have to say stop and exchange for the next one higher. Really emphasize that there is something that's happening that's different. So I'll show you what that looks like. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Stop. What do? Exchange for the next one higher. If we're working with the units, the next one higher is the tens, right? I want to keep this separate because this 10 is new, right? So these are 10. So because we have 10, we're going to exchange. So these have to go back into the box. So slide them off. This is the fun way to slide them off. Some teachers don't like it. I love it. Why not to have a little fun with it? So I slide them off. That's why you can't have fun with it, because you drop things. I still like doing it the fun way. You'll have to decide. Do you want to do it the fun way or the boring way? I still advocate the fun way. All right. So we slid them off. We put them back in the box. Now, take a look. We exchange for the next one higher, and he's going to join the tens. But first, take a look. How many do we have left over here? What do we have left in our units? We only have 1 because we did some exchanging. Let's let's count how many 10s we have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And this is where a child who's really gotten into that memorization, that exploration and memorization of math facts, they'll be like, oh, 5 plus 1 is 6. And they won't stop to think, oh, I have to exchange. So you can kind of tell when a child just wants to memorize and not do the work. You can start seeing it on their stamp game paper because they'll just go through and know 5 plus 1 is 6. Be like, oh, wait. Take a look. Something special happened right here that changes that number. So sometimes you might have to tell them, go back, take a look. Something special happened. Let's think about it. Now let's count over here in our hundreds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And over here in our thousands. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so let's tell the story of addition for this one. We started out with 3,655 as our first add-in. We joined 1,216 for our second add-in. And when we put those two together, we made a bigger number, and that bigger number is 4,871. That's our answer, and the answer is what we call the sum. And that's how you do both static and dynamic addition with the stamp game. Now, of course, you can use the stamp game for all the operations, and my favorite personally is division. And the reason why I love division so much is when you start giving the division lessons in primary, it's all about sharing equally. And let me tell you, social justice comes into play when we learn about division because everybody wants to make sure that we're sharing equally. And so when children ask me, what's this? I tell them, well, those are Skittles. And of course, they get really excited because they love Skittles. Like, well, they're not the candy Skittles. They're the division Skittles. And they're what help us figure out how to share equally. So the children are always excited. They want to move through addition, subtraction, multiplication, just so they can get to division. So sometimes I have to slow them down. And I kind of like the fact that division comes last because I have to say, okay, well, if you want to do division, I got to see you practicing your addition, your subtraction, your multiplication, all of that. And then we can get to division because division is all about what? Sharing equally. So younger children, primary children, elementary children, really invested in sharing equally. So that's a great lesson to give. They think it's so much fun. I love giving the division lesson. So it's pretty cool. Also, we have these discs over here. These are to help us with zeros when we get to that point. But I'll show you those with a different lesson. I will make a separate video for subtraction and multiplication and division, so I'll break all those up. But also there's a special game you can play if your child's having trouble with exchanging. We have a changing game in Montessori, but I'm not going to show that in this video because that game can actually cover a lot of different materials. So I want to show you all the different ways to do that. And I even came up with a money game for it. So if you're looking for a game to do with money to help your child learn money, learn more so the coins, the changing game can work for that too. So I'm going to make that a separate video as well. We're just focusing on how we introduce the stamp game and how to do addition today. So if you like that, go ahead and give the video a thumbs up. And also, if you worked with the stamp game before and you have some advice for how you've worked with it or things that have gone well for you, or if you've had some problems with it, you can list that in the comment section below, and we'll make sure to respond to that so that you get any help or any advice you have to share. So yeah, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, share it with others, comment below, and of course, as always, subscribe to the channel, and I will see you in the next video.